it's not bad. I want to do this video quite a while ago. And one of the reasons I didn't get to it was because I wanted to learn Stairway to Heaven on the melodica. And, my skills always have to develop. And so I've worked hard. But I wanted to get to this video because I attended the Stairway to Heaven conference with Peter Lavenda and Marco Visconti back in October. And I went to the conference with a friend of my Stinky McDougal's Lab channel, Dan, and I was very grateful for that. And so, I want to kind of talk about the trip, the venue and the event itself, and just kind of, lay out some things that, I went in and I was very excited about meeting Peter Lavenda and the other researchers and Tone Elise who actually organized it. And so, I left from Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, and much to my surprise, when I arrived in Los Angeles, lo and behold, I came across Bill Murray, standing in the airport as we were getting off our plane. And, you always want to get a picture with these guys, but someone else was getting a picture. But I did. I had one last card of mine from the Apocalypse, and so I gave it to Bill Murray. And so, Mr. Murray, if you ever happen to see this video, I'm the crazy guy in the airport who gave you the Venus Apocalypse card. Flying out there was a lot of fun. It was really interesting because I really love flying over the West Coast, where you get to see all of the mountains. And, you really, from the air, get just this incredible sense of the apocalypse. And in particular, because of the mountains and of the discharges that you can see, in particular the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. And so I did have a couple of pictures that I took. I'm not sure if I've got many to share, but I'll be sharing them as I go here. But when I got to California, I flew into LA, and Dan picked me up, and the next day we drove out to Joshua Tree, California, to the Metaphysical Institute out in Joshua Tree. And, this was like a 5-day conference. And the idea of Stairway to Heaven was a look at the texts that, encompass the idea of ritual magic. I actually told a friend that I was going to this, and I think I freaked him out a little bit at first until he understood that, when I look at this, I look at it as a technology. And I look at it as a technology that I wish to understand, and in particular because there are people out there who are utilizing this technology. I firmly believe that. And so I wanted to understand this technology. What was it? What does it do? What is it, a part of? And so, Marco talked a lot about what ritual magic was. He talked a lot about the history and the nature of it. And it was an interesting look at the different parts. But, as I'm at the conference, which, by the way, was attended by people from all over the world. And, not necessarily every country. There were probably, I think there were 25 or so of us. But there were people there from, I believe, Finland, although it's definitely in that Holland Dutch area. But I think Finland. This gentleman eating Jorge's head. I took Jorge along, got pictures with everybody. But we have a gentleman there who was from India, and another gentleman who was there from England, and then a lot of folks here from America, and obviously the West Coast and LA as well. But it was unique to meet these people, and I always wonder when I meet folks at an event like this, just what the background is that brings all of us together for such a unique event. And, you never know exactly how or why this event was created, but the Stairways to Heaven was originally scheduled to go back in March of 2025. And that was when I signed up for it, and that was when many other people signed up for it. And then apparently the Bush administration began canceling visas, and Marco couldn't get a visa. And so his visa was canceled, and they moved the event from March to October. And not just any, particular point in October, but they scheduled this to be going on the Monday? Sunday. Monday of Aleister Crowley's birthday. Now, one, Peter Levenda's segments were really kind of interesting because he looked at the idea of ritual magic from several grimoires, which are, books of magic, and several, ancient, archaic traditions of magic. And, he wrote in the very beginning of his book, Gods, that all religion is cargo cult religion. And, one of the things that I sensed very quickly about many of the texts was the electrical encoding of these. And so I have a slide or two here, a couple of pictures that I took, because these pictures in particular reminded me of the chaos circuit that was, discovered by Dr. Leanne Chua, which is a 4-part circuit. And I'm not necessarily ready to say in particular which way these diagrams encode the resistor, memristor, capacitor, and inductor, but the square nature of each of these diagrams, and in particular this one, which is the one that defines Nidan, which, although the Chinese language, although the Japanese language, although these Asian languages don't seem to comport to the Indo-European language, I did, mention to Peter after this particular slide that the idea of Nidan in the Indo-European language, Ni is often a way of saying no, the N-E, N-E-I, N-O, these are all no, and Dan is a way of saying God. And so Nidan, if there were a Proto-Indo-European language connection, is like saying this is a diagram of the no God. I'm just pointing it out because it seemed, pretty synchronistic that those two would exist. Peter did an entire afternoon where he talked about To the Stars and took questions about the To the Stars movement. And he did that on the day that we did the trip to the Integratron. And the Integratron was, once again, a very interesting part of the journey because if you know on my other channel, I did a video on the Integratron. I was excited to go because of the nature of the visit and the nature of the building itself. The guy who originally designed the building and designed it to have no metal in it, designed this building because he had contact with, alien forces. And he put this thing right where it should be in relation to electrical forces, which is what he said it was for to begin with. And so I found that just a fascinating piece of the trip itself. And when we came back, Peter talked a lot about the fact that day was the birthday of Aleister Crowley. And so, they had put the event to go over the birthday of Aleister Crowley. And one, I did an interview. I actually did a podcast the Saturday of that weekend in the morning with Vincent, with Mr. Visconti, Vincent Visconti. And it was a really fascinating conversation with him about the nature of ritual magic, about the life of Aleister Crowley. But to be sitting there on Aleister Crowley's birthday with Peter Levenda talking about Crowley, talking about ritual magic, and in particular, talking about the time that he spent in New York City writing and producing what's known as the Necronomicon. I don't know if you've ever looked on my shelf here to see what's there, but this is actually known as the Simonicon. Sinomicon, we're going to go with that one. Because it's not the actual Necronomicon, but rather it's made up of spells taken from other, I believe that, as I called it earlier, other grimoires, books of magic. And it is meant to facilitate the idea of the Necronomicon, of a book of magic. And, I tried to listen carefully to the things that Peter talked about. In particular, I did not know, and this is a great synchronicity, but he had contact with early Marvel artists, and one in particular, the artist who produced the X-Men. But, after all of the session there had been done, and we were getting ready to go out, I believe, and do star watching that night, one of the things I decided, was that I wanted to have a moment of my book with the class. I didn't know if we were going to pull his book out and actually discuss it. But if you don't know, the Necronomicon was completed by the group who wrote it on Aleister Crowley's birthday. And the class was being held that day on the 50th anniversary of its completion. And although we talked about the book itself, there was never an effort to pull the book out, to go through the contents of the book, or to talk about what the book's, total value or structure might mean. And so when the class got over, I pulled mine out. I took my copy with me. I thought, just in case. And after Peter took several questions from folks personally, I went up to him, and, one gentleman that was there had actually had Peter autograph his Necronomicon, which is just wonderful and just fine. But, I actually had Peter, on the day I got there, maybe it was the next day, I actually had Peter autograph my research journal of his, To the Stars Academy. I had him autograph it to Dr. Stinky McDougal. And so as I stood there, I wasn't sure what to do or what I was going to ask him in particular, but I didn't think that I wanted him to sign the book. For some reason, I didn't feel like that was quite the appropriate action that I was looking for, and looking for isn't quite the right word, but that I thought would be appropriate. And so, I asked him, I said, Peter, I don't think I want you to autograph my Necronomicon. I don't know that that's perhaps the thing that I'm after here. I said, but it just seems that on such an austere occasion, that you should, I would like to ask you to do whatever you feel most appropriate on this day. And I handed him the book. And, I said, I don't know if that means, simply to put hands on the book, which would have been plenty for me. But lo and behold, after, carefully taking the book and reviewing it, and after paging through some of the very, front pages, he opened it up. He opened this copy of the book up on its 50th anniversary. Goodness, excuse me. He opened this book up on its 50th anniversary on the 100th something birthday of Aleister Crowley, and he read a spell. He read the spell, The Binding of the Evil Sorcerers, right here on this page. And so, it's a two-pager, and I'm going to read it for you because it was surreal, honestly. I invoke you, gods of the night. Together with you, I call to the night, to the covered woman. I call in the evening, at midnight, and in the morning, because they have enchanted me. The sorcerer and the sorceress have bound me. My god and my goddess cry over me. I am plagued with pain because of illness. I stand upright. I cannot lie down, neither during the night nor during the day. They have stuffed my mouth with cords. They have closed my mouth with grass. They have made the water of my drink scarce. My joy is sorrow, and my merriment is grief. Arise, great gods, hear my wailing, obtain justice, take notice of my ways. I have an image of the sorcerer and the sorceress, of my enchanter and enchantress. May the 3 watches of the night dissolve their evil sorceries. May their mouths be wax, their tongues honey. The word of my doom, which they have spoken, may they melt like wax. The spell that they worked, may it pour away like honey. Their knot is broken, their work is destroyed. All their speech fills the deserts and the wastes. According to the decree which the gods of the night have issued, it is finished. That is the only spell cast by Peter Levenda on the 50th anniversary of the Necronomicon from this book. Now, if you said, do you believe in magic? Do you believe that something special happened? Yeah, I do. I believe very much that there are forces out there that we don't understand. That there are events that occur that we don't understand. And that Peter Levenda is a sorcerer. He is a magician. And on the 50th anniversary of that book, he most certainly set a spell. A spell he chose. And a spell from a book I didn't ask him to say. But it just felt like the right thing to give him the book on such an austere occasion. Yeah. Probably one of the more surreal moments in my entire life. You know, the star watching was interesting that evening, and the event from start to finish was truly a special place to be. The day after, we took an extra day, Dan and I did, and we went up and we did a field visit to Joshua Tree. I put a video out on that. And then we took a quick ride home and got some ice cream along the way, had some good sushi. And I am very blessed by the friends I've made and by the journey that I have taken and by the events that I have participated in. And I am grateful to have such an amazing opportunity to meet both Marco and Peter and Tonalise and all of the individuals who visited and joined, you know, the crew for Stairway to Heaven. And so, if you're wondering, am I a cult member of the Stairway to Heaven? The answer is no. Now, my shirt is actually from Hotel Minnesota this last week. And I'm a cult member of the Confucius Band who rocked it hard Saturday night. And, you know, music, ceremony, magic, people, the mystery. These are all the things that I love. These are all the things that not only I seek, but that seek me. And I am ever and eternally grateful to be a part of this great mystery. So that, my friends, was the Stairway to Heaven. And may you always and ever enjoy our trip to the stars. Thank you and peace out.